So everything started a couple of days ago when my 8-year-old daughter had a ballet recital, and it was something that both my wife Hannah, 33 female, and I, 35 male, was supposed to attend. Unfortunately, I was down with the flu the day before the event and I could not make it. It was my wife who promised our daughter that she would go, and I thought that she would live up to that promise. But on the day of the recital, Hannah came back home with my daughter, and she was really upset. My daughter was angry, and my wife just seemed confused. And when I asked her what was going on, Hannah told me that our daughter was mad at her because she, for some reason, believed that she had not attended the event properly. I was a bit confused by the use of the word properly because this was something that was pretty straightforward. My wife had either attended and been there throughout, or she had not been there at all. But apparently, our daughter believed that my wife had shown up towards the end of the recital and hadn't even seen her perform. So it was quite pointless, and that's why she was upset with the both of us since we had promised her that we would show up, and then both of us did not. She said that she was more mad at her mom since I was still sick and I had an excuse not to be there. But her mother had promised her that she would watch her perform, and then she did not even show up. Hannah insisted that she had shown up and had even recorded her performance, but our daughter refused to believe it and kept saying that she had not been there. I did not know what to say because it was a weird argument. I wanted to take Hannah's side, but that would really hurt my daughter's feelings. And I did not want her to think that I didn't trust her just because she was 8. And Hannah kept saying that she had been there. Maybe my daughter just hadn't been able to spot her, but she sounded pretty sure of what she had seen. And she even mentioned that she had walked in around the time that one of her friends was performing as a tulip on stage. It was too specific for her to lie about something like that. And at one point, I started thinking that maybe our daughter wasn't actually lying. It was a tough situation because I didn't want to tell my daughter anything and then make her feel like we did not trust her. And neither did I want to doubt my wife just because our daughter was saying something she might have easily missed her mother in the audience earlier. So that day, I just didn't know what to say, and I told both of them to sleep it off and then we would discuss it in the morning since I was still pretty sick and I couldn't deal with all the arguments that moment itself. So, for my sake, the two of them calmed down and ended their fight. The next morning, they were back on talking terms because my daughter is 8 once again, but I could tell that my daughter wasn't exactly pleased with the way things turned out the previous evening. And even though she was talking to her mother, she was kind of giving her the cold shoulder and had a bit of an attitude. She wasn't smiling the way she usually does when her mother makes her breakfast, and even when I came into the room, she did not seem very happy. She just appeared to be all gloomy. I could tell that she was taking it really hard because she thought that nobody had shown up for her, and this was supposed to be her first dance recital, so it was quite natural for her to be very upset about it. When I saw her like that, I decided that I had to do something about the situation. Hannah could not take a day off from work since she had an important meeting lined up that day, so she could not be a part of that day. But I had made up my mind that I wanted to cheer our daughter up, so I took a day off and told her that we would go out and have a day to ourselves so she could come back feeling much better. When I told her that, she seemed kind of excited about that opportunity, and after Hannah left, we locked the house and went to the mall for an early lunch, and then I was going to take her to the bookstore and buy her whatever she wanted, since she likes reading. While we were together, it seemed like she had almost forgotten about the events of the previous night and was coming back to her old self. After lunch, we were getting ice cream, and then I asked her about what exactly had made her so upset the previous day. She then started telling me that she was sure that her mother had not shown up on time since she had been waiting behind the curtains and peeking out every chance she got to look at the audience and see if her mother was there or not. Even when other people were performing before, she was looking out through the wings trying to check out if a mother was sitting in the audience or not. She also told me categorically that there were very few people in the audience, mostly just parents who had shown up for the event because there were not a lot of kids in her dance class. And that was true. I can vouch for that. There were a few people to look at, and had her mother been there, she would have been able to see her. She told me that she was pretty certain that her mother had not shown up until after her performance was over, since while her friend was performing, she was still peeking out the wings and she spotted her mother walking in and taking her seat. She told me that she was quite upset that her mother was lying about everything, especially after both of us had told her not to lie and taught her that it was wrong. She didn't know the word for it, but I knew that's what we would call it. It was hypocritical. Look, I trust my wife. We have been together for so many years, and I don't think people have been able to make it this far without having the utmost faith in each other. She and I met almost 12 years ago and have stayed together since then. We've been married for 10 of those years and have an 8-year-old daughter, of course. I trust her. But the things that my daughter was telling me were too specific for me not to believe. And I was not going to disregard her words just because she was 8. She sounded very serious, and I knew that my daughter was not a liar. So she would never make up something like this. And that's when I started suspecting that maybe there was something off and my wife was actually lying to us and trying to gaslight both of us into believing that she was there. She might not have been. I had a day off, so I decided to do some more digging on the same day. After getting lunch and buying my daughter the books that she wanted at the bookstore, she wanted to go home so she could read, and I dropped her off at my mother's place so she could do that in peace, and then I went off on my own. First, I headed to her dance class so I would be able to talk to her dance instructor. If anybody would be able to tell me what was going on, that was my best bet. Luckily for me, I caught her just as she was leaving for her lunch break, and when I asked her if my wife had shown up for the event yesterday, she told me no. She informed me that my wife had actually called her a couple of hours before the event was supposed to start, around the afternoon, and told her that neither of us would be able to make it because I was sick and she had a prior commitment. So she had not been able to attend, and the video that my wife had shown us had been recorded by my daughter's dance instructor herself, not by my wife like she had been claiming. I thought that it was very fishy, and I decided that I had to find out where she actually was because I could not come to terms with the fact that she had lied to me. And I knew that if I confronted her about it, she would just cover it up with more lies and erase the truth. For about half an hour after I learned that she had actually been missing from the event and had been lying to both of us, I kept brainstorming ideas on how to find out where she actually was, and then it hit me. I could just check that timeline of her visits on maps since I'm pretty sure that our car navigation system must have logged it into the record. I was counting on her not to have erased it before, and thankfully she had not remembered to do that. So when I checked out where she had been the previous day on maps, I realized that she had taken a route that was quite familiar to me and was visiting an address that I had known for a really long time. It was her brother-in-law's address, and seeing it broke my heart. I could also see the time that she had visited him and at what time she had left the place to go to her daughter's recital. I calculated and realized that she had spent almost 4 hours at his place, and I couldn't understand why. Her brother-in-law, Thomas, had not kept in touch with us for the past couple of years. Hannah was actually a twin, but unfortunately her sister had lost her battle with ovarian cancer 3 years ago. Since then, Thomas has cut all ties with us and had nothing to do with his late wife's family. After the funeral, we tried to reach out to him a couple of times, but he made it very clear that we were no longer welcome in his life. We were all very devastated, but he took it the worst, which made sense because we had lost somebody close to us, but he had lost his soulmate, who is what he used to call his wife. And it was very obvious to anybody who saw them that they were truly in love. We attempted to get in touch with him several times, but there was only so much one could do without getting a response from the other person, so we gave up after a while. However, Hannah continued to try to get to him, and when I asked her why, since he had already shown us that he did not want us to reach out to him, she told me that she had already lost her sister, and she did not think it was wise to let him be on his own and all alone because that's not what her sister would have wanted. She told me that she was afraid that he was pushing us all away because he was depressed and was scared that he might do something to himself. And if he did, she would never be able to forgive herself. So for a year after her sister's demise, she kept trying to talk to Thomas, and he would only shut her out. I thought she was doing something very noble, and I was really proud of her for trying to help. One day, all her hard work paid off, and he invited her home. But he had one very specific condition, that it was only going to be him, nobody else. He said that he was not comfortable with meeting other people from his wife's family right now, and since she had been consistently trying to get to talk to him, that is why he was letting her in, and they could build their way up from here, but for now it only had to be her. I thought it was fair. She had been the only person who had tried so much to keep in touch with him and make sure he was doing fine. Nobody else had put in as much effort as my wife had, and I understand that he did not want to be vulnerable in front of anybody else apart from her. I knew that he was a grief-stricken man, and I wanted her to be able to help him, so I told her that it was fine with me if she went to his place on her own. Never in a million years would it ever occur to me that he would try to do what he did, because in my head I had only seen him be in love with my sister-in-law, so I couldn't even imagine that he would try to hit on my wife. In hindsight, it was pretty stupid of me, and I probably should have insisted that I accompany Hannah to his place, and then maybe he would not have tried to come on to her. But anyway, when my wife came back home that day, I did not expect her to be back so quickly because it had been barely an hour since she had left. She was very upset, and she told me that she had just wasted a year of her life trying to help a man who was way beyond help. She told me that Thomas was screwed in the head, and she did not want anything to do with him anymore. She even told me that we were forbidden from discussing or ever talking about Thomas or her sister in the house anymore, because what happened was really just messed up. She told me that when she visited him that day, he had set up the living room as if it was a date. He had aromatic candles placed here and there, and had turned the lights down low, and was even playing music for her, but nothing that she liked. He was playing her artists that her sister used to love, and she instantly started feeling really weird and disturbed when she walked in. She tried to ask him about it, but instead of replying to her, he started talking about how he had always known that this was going to happen. And then, while she was still struggling to understand what was going on, Thomas tried to give her a hug and kiss her on the cheek. And she figured that because of his depression, he had gotten the wrong idea as to why she had been trying to keep in touch with him. So she pushed him away and explained to him that she did not have any intention of starting something romantic with him, and tried to tell him that she was only just concerned about his well-being, which is why she was trying to talk to him. Instead of being embarrassed, he got upset and said that she had led him on and told her to get out because he'd really thought and even hoped during the course of his marriage to my sister-in-law that something would happen between him and Hannah. Now that Hannah's sister was no longer in the picture and she had been trying to contact him, He figured that what he had hoped for was finally coming through. But when he realized that it was not the case, he told Hannah to leave, and she left gladly. When she told me about all of this, I was very upset as well because I had thought that Thomas was a decent guy. And while he had been married to my sister-in-law, they had always seemed to be so perfect together that I would never expect something like this. Neither of us spoke about it to anybody else in the family because we were willing to cut him some slack since we figured that the death of his wife had affected him mentally. But after that, we did not try to talk to him ever again. And he did not reach out to us, not even to apologize. We pretended like he didn't exist, and that was how we coped with the situation. But then when I saw that she had visited him and had lied to everyone about it, I lost my cool. I called my lawyer up immediately and told him to start preparing a divorce petition because I was just that pissed off. I planned on confronting Hannah after I got back home that day, so I told my mom that I was not going to pick up my daughter from her house and that she had to look after her that day. I filled her in on everything that was going on and whatever I was planning to do once I got home, which is why I did not want our daughter to witness things because I knew that the fight could get ugly and I didn't want her to see us like that. My mother agreed to watch her for one night, and my daughter was willing to spend the night at her grandparents' place anyway, so that was not much of a struggle for me. When I got back home, I was furious and I couldn't even focus on doing anything, so I just waited for Hannah to come back home from work. Around 5 in the evening, she finally came back home and was acting really casual. But I didn't beat around the bush and I confronted her as soon as she walked in the door and asked her if she had visited Thomas yesterday. She seemed very taken aback, and for a few seconds she did not have anything to say to me. And then she decided not to deny anything, but tried to explain to me that there was a reason why she had visited him, and she wanted me to hear her out. So I decided to hear her out, but she did not really have any real excuse, and that was a huge waste of my time, because all she said to me was that Thomas had invited her over a couple of days ago, and she had decided to visit him because a lot of time had passed since the last interaction, and she had figured that maybe he had changed over the course of the past couple of years and had become a better person, so he was inviting her to things. However, when she got there, he did apologize to her, but when she accepted his apology, he tried to confess his love for her and said that she belonged with him and not me. So this time she smacked him and then walked out of his house. I don't even understand why she thought that he had changed and was going to apologize to her genuinely, because even in the message that he had sent her, he hadn't mentioned anything of this sort. He had only said that he wanted to talk to her. She told me that she was stupid enough to think that he would mean his apology, and she did not want to tell me the truth because she felt like that would create a lot of unnecessary drama. And that's why she had lied to both of us. But she was sorry about it and wanted me to forgive her. I was very upset, and I told her that I did not want to speak to her and left. I packed a few of my things and have been living with my mother ever since. I'm still going through with the divorce, and she is devastated. She keeps begging me to come back because she doesn't think that this is something that we need to separate over. But I feel really betrayed and cheated. It's not just the fact that she lied to me. It's the fact that she tried to gaslight our daughter as well. And honestly, at this point, I don't even know if I can trust her about what she said went down at his place. I want to believe her, but it's just very difficult for me right now, and I don't know if a divorce is the right thing to do. But I'm really upset. My mother also thinks that while what she did was wrong, this is not something divorce-worthy since we have been together for so long and even have a daughter together. So she suggested that we try marriage counseling, but I don't know if that's what I want right now. AITA for wanting to divorce my wife over one lie that she told me and my daughter. Update 1. Hi, I have been going through the comments and I realized that I might have been too hasty in making my decision about getting a divorce. I know some of you have said that there is nothing wrong with me wanting to end my marriage over one incident, but I think I want to give it another shot. It's not because I have suddenly realized how difficult life would be without my wife, but more because I have a daughter to think of, and this decision of mine is going to affect our entire family, not just me. So I have to quarantine accordingly, and I can't just do things for the sake of it anymore because I have to think about other people first, namely my daughter. It has been close to 1 week since I left my house, and I have been thinking about what I want to do next. It has been really difficult because I don't know how to explain it to my daughter, and she keeps asking questions about why we are not going home and why hasn't her mother come to see her yet. I told her now that we were currently having a disagreement and she and her mother would be reunited pretty soon. Hannah is texting me every day to ask for forgiveness, and I want to respond to her. I want to talk to her, but I don't know what to say. It's been a difficult time for all of us as a family, and I'm really grateful to my mother for being here for me during this time. I think this evening I might finally reply to her messages and tell her to meet me in person because I think I might be better at speaking to her that way. On text, I don't think anything can be resolved anyway, so I have decided that I'm going to talk to her today and try to sort things out with her in person. I don't know what we're going to decide eventually, but I just want to give our marriage another chance because we have been together for a really long time, like my mother had said, and we have a daughter together. So whether we like it or not, we have to at least try and make this work for her sake. I did speak to my lawyer a couple of days ago and told him to put the divorce proceedings on hold for now because I don't exactly know what's going to happen. We might end up staying together. I just don't know anything. I'm not sure about anything, and I'm just so lost. Update 2. Hey everyone, I just came back home from my meeting with Hannah. It has been an hour since then, and I have mixed feelings about how everything went. We decided to meet at our restaurant because that was our safest bet right now. When I got there, she was already there, and the first thing that she said to me when I walked up to her was that she was really just sorry about everything. She told me that she had lied to me because she was afraid of the consequences of telling the truth, and ultimately that had been worse. Hannah confessed that the only reason she had visited Thomas was because that was one of the last couple of links that she had with her sister, and she did not feel comfortable cutting him off entirely, but she did not have any other choice either because of his behavior. Her parents don't talk about her sister anymore since it hurts them too much, and she had believed that maybe Thomas would be able to be her safe space, and she wanted to talk about my sister because both of them had really loved her. I was kind of hurt by that statement, and I asked her, why couldn't she talk to me? And she told me that she could talk to me, but it was just that I did not know my sister-in-law the same way that Thomas had known her, that she had known her. The three of them had known each other for a long time before I was even in the picture, so naturally they had a very different relationship, and I guess that makes sense. I have never had a sibling, so I don't know how that feels, and I know it has been really difficult for her because they were very close. But coming to what we talked about going forward, we have decided that we are going to stay together. I know that it might not be something that people will agree with, and a lot of you in the comments think that I should be suspicious of her and believe that she's cheating, but nobody knows her like I do, and I feel like I should give her one more chance. If I get hurt, that's on me. But I feel like we have been through so much together that this is the least that we can do for each other. She has apologized to me profusely for lying, and we have decided that we're going to try couples counseling. But for now, we are keeping our distance from each other because both of us need our space to deal with our emotions right now. For the next couple of days, I'm still going to continue living with my mother. But I did talk to her about it, and I told her that our daughter really misses her, so she's going to spend the next couple of days with Hannah. Update 3. Hi, you guys. It has been almost 2 months, and Hannah and I are currently in couples counseling. We started about a week after I posted here, and things have been going well. I'm very thankful for that. We have obviously moved back in together. We just lived apart for a couple of days after my last post, and we slept in different rooms for the first few weeks, even after we started counseling. But we have been trying to get back on track with our marriage. It's been good. Last week we started sleeping in the same room again, and it was nice because it almost felt like old times again. We are trying our best to rebuild the trust that has been lost, and I would say that I am really happy that I decided to give Hannah and our marriage a chance. Because things have been getting better every day. And most importantly, our daughter seems happy, and that's really why we had even done all of this. That was the goal, ultimately, to make sure that our daughter stayed happy. She does have some idea that we had been fighting a couple of weeks ago. She's not oblivious. She keeps asking us if everything is right between us again. We have to tell her that we are working on it because we want to be honest with her. And that's an answer that seems to satisfy her, so that's what we're sticking to. And I don't think that dealing with Thomas is going to be a problem ever again, because we heard from a couple of people that he sold everything that he had here and moved back in with his parents, who live in another state. So he is not going to be back here anytime soon. Hannah believes that this might be the reason why he had reached out to her, to try to get her one last time before he left. I guess that makes sense. It sounds like something he would do. Maybe like a last-ditch attempt to get with her, which ultimately did not lead anywhere for him. Hannah and I are still together, and he's gone. She and I are trying to make our marriage better every day, and we hope that by next year, we will be perfectly fine again. And even if we are not perfect, at least we will be better. Better partners and better parents, that's all we want to be. So thank you to everybody who gave us advice, regardless of what kind of advice it was. I'm just happy that you guys took the time to reach out to me and comment on my posts and stuff. I will always be grateful for that, because it really helped me sort things out in my head. And if I hadn't done that, I might not have been with her today. So I think I owe you all one. Stay tuned for more stories from Our Girl Relationships.